Hey, everybody, welcome to the Jason J. Daniels Show. I'm really excited. Today is a great day. It's been a very busy day for me. I got a new microphone. Hopefully, you'll notice that. Hopefully, it sounds good. I have a special guest, a new friend I just met, and we're going to talk about something extremely important to the San Francisco community. And it's an international story, and it's actually important to all of us. And I'm in Northern California, and this is kind of a Bay Area, California story, but it's also a worldwide story because this has affected so many people. But before I get into the story, we want to bring awareness to it. I want to say thank you to my guest, Liz Lay, for joining me. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. Do I sound okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, they tell you with these mics, like you open them up, it's like you got to be 6 inches, right? So I'm like, so I threw it together and put it on. So if we have technical difficulties, I apologize. So I wanted to bring Liz on because there's a really important situation going on in San Francisco regarding a murder. Actually, a case that became international news when an individual who has over 90 to 100 convictions was on parole and killed on it was New Year's Eve, right?
Right.
Killed two women walking through a crosswalk, and one of the young ladies who died, she was just an unsuspecting victim of this career criminal. Both of them were. And so this has been in the court system for quite some time. And we wanted to bring awareness to it because there is another court hearing for the individual that murdered her. And the victim's name, her name is Hiroki Abe. Am I getting that right?
HANAKO Abe is the
HANAKO Abe. Sorry about that.
Hiroko is her mom. It's
Her
fine.
mom. Okay, so I was close. So yeah, and speaking of the mom, the family there in Japan, it's such an incredible situation for them. So there is a hearing tomorrow. Friday. There's a protest tomorrow because there's a lot of concerns that this individual may get diversion instead of the harsh prison sentence that he needs or to stay behind bars, right? So I could be getting the story a little mixed up. I might be missing some details. So I want to first pitch it to Liz to clear up any anything I might have missed.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much, Jason. The protest is on Friday, which is going to be at 8:30 a.m., and that's 30 minutes before the actual court hearing. And we encourage you to go to both. It's going to be at, I believe, 575 Polk Street, 1 block from City Hall, in the corner of Turk.
Now we have the address. I can put that up. Liz, explain what this hearing is about, and then we'll get into your bio and tell everybody who you are.
Yes, so Hanako Abe was 27 years old when she was run down by a serial criminal at that time who already had 71 felonies and at least 13 misdemeanors over a 25-year career. At that time, the DA was Chesa Boudin, who was really a public defender in the DA's role. And, this guy had been arrested several times and he kept stealing vehicles and being, drug dealing, drug paraphernalia, burglary. And he was actually running away from a burglary when he ran over these two women on New Year's Eve. And one of them is Hanako Abe. And her mom has been waiting for 5 years for this to go to trial. I mean, that is how insane our court system is, that you have to wait 5 years. And then she just got a note earlier this week that she sent to our editor, Susan Reynolds at The Voice of San Francisco, saying, I received this note. I really don't understand it because she doesn't speak English, or she's Japanese. And she was a bit confused. And Susan read it and found out, oh, well, they're putting you in what we call a diversion, court care, for mental health. And it's usually given for misdemeanors, not someone with, 73 felonies, but now 90 some felonies since Boudin's era. So she was very confused, and so that ended up causing us to set up this protest because we find it just outrageous that this mom would wait 5 years to be basically told everything could this guy would just get diversion possibly this Friday.
So, so this, yeah, this has been going on for 5 years, and it shocked the community. From what I'm reading, and I'm going to go ahead and put I'm going to put a photo up here that I think is important for everyone to see. Yeah, so it looks like unfortunately, we're covering the date there, but this is, here she is. And let me see if I can bump that up there.
Myself,
Oh, there you go. There you go. You took one for the team. There
yes,
you go. So yeah, so it starts on Friday, 8:30 a.m. Superior Court. There's the information there. Screen cap it, guys, or take your phone out. I want to get into just to have some background into Liz's bio. Liz is a 20-year San Francisco citizen. And so San Francisco very well. You have two children that were in the school systems, an entrepreneur, political science background, and an economic background. And you are on the board of The Voice, is that correct?
that's correct.
And you are a contributing writer, and you cover law and order in San Francisco.
That's right.
And you are so detailed. Your stuff is so good. I had a chance to catch up on what you're writing, and also on your X account. It's fantastic. I'm going to put that up for everybody. You don't pull any punches on the details, and you're very direct on the call to action, right, for citizens that are reading what you're writing. Um, and you have, yeah, so your story is very interesting. And I think it's important for everyone to know your background as well. And so your father was a contractor for the US Navy during the Vietnam War, and that allowed your family to come over with political asylum, which is so cool. And so you've been a local voice about public safety, law and order, and you've been very involved in the details of these kind of situations in the community. And you also had a situation that inspired you to get into, I guess, I'm going off of what you have written. You had a situation with a family member. We'll get into those details shortly. But you had a situation where you were affected by crime in San Francisco, and the system let you guys down. And that was one of the things that was a catalyst. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And for someone who's lived in San Francisco over 20 years, we've seen, a very drastic decline in public safety, and it's impacted everyone. I mean, I don't know anyone who doesn't know at least one person that's has been involved as a victim in a crime, whether it's a theft or an assault of some sort.
Okay, let's dig into that again. How many? Like, say that again. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco, we had such uh, a huge decimation in our public safety over the last several years, probably starting with, Prop 47 that was passed in 2014, which pretty much defelonized serial theft and serial drug dealing and drug use. So that had a huge impact on public safety in San Francisco because we had a huge drug tourism problem, and so that, drug tourism leads to all sorts of things, assaults, thefts, burglaries. And so everybody in San Francisco at some point was reporting random assaults from drug induced psychosis, from homeless people, or just the thefts everywhere. I mean, now you walk through Walgreens or CVS, everything is covered in plastic.
Right. So you said drug tourism. Am I getting that right? Can
Yes.
you can you break that down?
Yes, so when I say drug tourism, it's because San Francisco, we have some of the cheapest fentanyl probably in the country, like $2 to $3 for fentanyl, right? But we're also unique is that we have a huge nonprofit system that encourages people to come here, and then they help them establish what we call like IHSS benefits and gives them $600 or $700 cash a month, even though they've only moved here for 2 weeks. And that cash can be used for pretty much anything. So it creates a drug tourism problem because we also allow for drug use. So you have open dealing and use of fentanyl in our city streets. So that is why we had such huge problems with the drug crisis.
Wow, yeah, and I'm sure you've seen it. There's Oliver X, there's accounts, people in San Francisco just posting daily videos of people on the streets. And I'm sure you're seeing it, you know.
Absolutely. And that's the truth. I mean, we have skyrocketing fentanyl deaths and overdoses. And so that's the truth, regardless of what you might be reading in mainstream media. I mean, that's a reality. Um,
And that's why we're doing what we're doing is because mainstream media I believe they're letting Northern California down. And this is not about that. You know, I don't want to get into criticizing, any of the media because they obviously do a great service in most cases. And in fact, this story with Troy and killing the two ladies was heavily covered. Were you happy with media coverage at the time?
yeah, I think so. But
Like moving forward?
yeah, Susan Reynolds, the reason she won a journalism award for The Voice, even though we've only been on for a year, it was because she did the investigative piece for Hanako Abe, and she was the only one who actually covered the perspective of the family. She actually had a Zoom call, had a translator to speak for 2 hours to really understand what the victims were going through, and that was not something that anybody was covering at that time.
Yeah. So we want to shout out to Susan Reynolds. I don't know Susan, but Susan, I read your tweets all the time. I repost you a lot, so that's me. Uh, just great, just really. Her posts are great, and I have put up the article that really touched me. I'm not sure if this is the one she won the award for, if it was just all the coverage, but the family, the impact on the family, is what really touched me, right? And I can't even imagine being that far away, right? And then hearing the news and all these things, and then now 5 years later, and I guess one of the major issues is like this kind of crime. It just we read it and we're like, okay, fine, because it doesn't affect us, but this affects generations of family members. And the fact that I guess my biggest issue, and I think this is why we're bringing this up, is like there's just where's the closure, right? This continues on and on. And I think this is why you guys, you and others, I'm going to assume you were part of the organization of the protest. I think this is why a protest is so important, because where is the closure? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm feeling if Troy gets diversion, like what does that look like, and will there be closure?
Yeah, I mean, basically, diversion means these serial felons who are not rehabilitated are back on the streets, and you can guarantee there will be more deaths and more
That's
victims, right?
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. So I guess that's what it's really about. Why you pay attention to it, why I pay attention to it, Susan and others that are passionate about this, is to prevent more victims, to stop the future crimes that people will commit. So speaking of that, let's talk about the incident. Explain for those who are not aware of this, what happened on that New Year's Day to those two ladies, and talk about Troy's involvement.
Yeah, so Troy McAlister had like 25 years, pretty much, of felonies, burglaries, drug dealing, drug use, stealing cars. I mean, he had an ankle brace. He was arrested at least 2 times in the last 2 months before these deaths occurred. And in every of those situations, instead of keeping him and charging him, and after they never did anything, they kept putting him out for probation. And Chesa Boudin would do this with hundreds of other serial felons and not even track where they were, and what they were doing, even though they were supposed to be doing, say, mental health diversion and doing these programs. Uh, that was never tracked. No one knew where these people were. So for Hanako, she was really, you know, the breadwinner of her family. Her family comes from, kind of a rural, outskirts, like 3 hours, 3.5 hours from Tokyo. They're very financially, modest because her father was already quite ill. He had a tear in his aorta, so he was pretty much incapacitated. He was, he could only, after surgery, he could only move his eyes. And her mother had gone through cancer. She raised her brothers, and she was, doing everything she could as a student, working hard to try to get accepted into this school in the US so she could study computer science. And when she got her degree, her dream was to come and live in San Francisco. And she was doing that and sending money to her family on a regular basis. And so it was very, very tragic when Troy McAlister just committed another burglary, stole someone's car, and was speeding away from that burglary when he went into the Soma area and just ran over these these ladies crossing. And she was getting off of work around 4 p.m. And she loved San Francisco, and she knew it was getting increasingly unsafe. But I don't think she anticipated like how bad the criminal system was. And Chesa Boudin, I mean, he was uh, disgracefully recalled because of this case. That's how large this case became worldwide, and it cost, millions and millions of dollars that huge parts of the community galvanized. People who were never political became political to get signatures and got him out.
Yeah, recalled. That was a pretty significant recall, which was a great sign. I was just like, "That's really cool, man." That it takes people to recall. People have to organize. And was it Troy that was the catalyst, or just Troy and others for the
I
recall?
think that was the worst because of just, I think Hanako symbolized like all these daughters and sons, and she came to America as the American dream, working hard. And, she comes to this beautiful place, San Francisco, which has been decimated by poor policies and crime. And the system had been letting out tons of Troys, right? He
Mhm.
chose his path. I mean, he had a pretty nice life. He lived in Soma. His mother worked for the city. He had an uncle that was very caring and loving, and he got into the wrong crowd. His brother did fine and had a different career path, but Troy isn't someone who can be rehabilitated after 25 years and over 100 felonies. It's very difficult to say this person can be rehabilitated. I think a trial is what people are asking for, is accountability.
100 felonies. How's that even real? It's it's like mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Thank you for breaking that down. 27 years old. She was 27. And was she a real estate agent, or did she have her license?
She was studying computer science, and she did a data engineer job with a real estate company in Soma.
Mm.
So she loved living downtown, but it was not, increasingly became unsafe. As you know, downtown San Francisco right now is quite dystopian.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I have spent so much time in dive bars down there, and old buildings in the basement, music, right, live music. But it's been years. It's been like 5 years since I've done that because I just don't want to deal with it. It's so bad at night, and it used to not be like that. And no, it's never been perfect. But in the last 6 years or so, I think it's been increasingly worse and worse, probably because of fentanyl. You mentioned Troy's family, and that really stood out to me when I looked into that. He has a family that has successful people in it. He had a lot of opportunities. But he started using drugs, according to the reporting, in his teenage years, right?
Right. Got into
And
the gangs. Yeah.
in the gangs. So I know people might go, okay, well, think automatically a guy that has this much trouble must have had a bad childhood. There's nothing that indicates he did. And clearly he's a grown man who has to be responsible for his life. But see, I thought it was 70 felonies. Then I found out it was 90, and now it's like 100. When we had talked, I believe I told you over the phone that I went into Grok to see who has more felonies. I said in the United States. Grok came back and said there was one person, and actually brought up Troy as number 2. I didn't even put his name in.
Wow.
It said one person doing a female doing white collar crimes. Okay, so not that that's good, but his crimes they're not white collar, they're significantly violent, and there's a pattern of more and more violence until he ultimately killed 2 innocent people. Can you talk about like that pattern of how now from your reporting? Where did the system break down? Did they just not keep track of him during those times? And he's been in San Francisco forever, right?
Yes, his crimes were also committed in San Mateo, Oakland, Alameda County, Contra Costa. And he is also, I mean, maybe if they had more carceral sentencing, they might have saved him earlier from
Yeah.
people. Except they only gave him maybe most 11 days in jail over this 25 years of multiple felonies. And I think also the change in legislation in the state of California over the last several decades has also decriminalized a lot of these types of felonies, making it easier and easier to push felonies or assaults or drugs into probation or diversion and mental health care courts. So it's a combination, I think, of state laws that actually failed him as well.
If I was a criminal, I would totally be in the Bay Area just getting it on. It's like you're like you can get away with it to a certain point, right? And he clearly learned that behavior was cool. Like he could find a way through it. Now I don't want to get in trouble, but I have a question for you, and if you don't want to answer it because it might be speculation, do you think his family had connections? Do you think there was somebody like looking down from the court system just trying to give him a solid because he had some inside help or something? Why I just can't understand why somebody like this would have. Now what you're saying is true, right? Yes, there's a lot of laws and things that let people kind of skate by, but why would somebody get that far down the rabbit hole of violence and just continue to murder?
Yeah, I think even Gascon at that time said, I don't think that this guy could go through diversion because his crimes are just becoming increasingly violent. And so there is that pattern that DAs see that unless you stop it right now, uh, there's just a natural path that escalates to because there's no accountability. And I think that is kind of where a lot of criminals like him start, right? They start with more low level crimes, but because they've become so lax and we've become so much into pushing restorative justice that we're failing to see that actually does not reduce recidivism at all.
No, it doesn't. And you're really onto something. And now Gaston is very, at the time was, kind of like also very left, right? Very like, so for him to be freaked out, that's a big deal, because like they're letting people here have some candy, take some time off from jail, right? So that's significant. I remember reading in my research about Troy that there was one arrest where the officers looked at his rap sheet and they were so freaked out. They said, I think he was at number 53 or something. And they wrote, this is a dangerous man.
Yes.
Yeah, they specifically said whoever wrote that was like freaked out that the law for that he was on the streets still committing crimes.
Yes,
So
so they ran his record when the UC security caught him, and he had an ankle bracelet, and he was shot because he had some other dispute going on.
right.
And
Yeah.
they're like, this guy has 73, felonies. He's dangerous. Except they didn't really do anything about it. So that's the horrible thing that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah, so yeah, he had been shot from another incident, and then was like stealing like it was like it's wild. I mean, it's not funny, but it's you can't help but like laugh because to a certain like it's so like absurd, you know. So you were saying The Voice is a year old? Is that correct?
yes, we're just a year old.
Okay, wow, I would have been I'm shocked because like it's so good. It's so like meaty. There's so much in it and I'm like now addicted to reading it. Um and so I again hats off to you guys. Was The Voice the creation of The Voice was crime one of the reasons like hey, we got to get this out. We have to use the internet to get our voice out about these things. Is that one of the reasons The Voice came online last year?
Yes, so The Voice is co-founded by these amazing journalists that have been doing journalism under the Marina Times for decades. So they really do cover everything.
Yeah.
Did not, I mean, in San Francisco, we did not have any common sense, moderate voices. We had the Chronicle, which endorsed some of the worst judges, including Judge Biggert, who was the one who built and led the CARE court, who is going to be presiding over Hanako Ebe's case for diversion on Friday. Uh,
Bingo. I'm glad you brought up the judge because that's where I was about to go because that's where we're going to get in trouble now. We're going to talk about the judge. So, all right, let's go down the rabbit hole. Now I didn't pull up a picture of the judge. I might find that. Let's talk about this because I think the judge, because it's very important to know his part in the story. You just mentioned he created this diversion, department thing. So go ahead and let's break down like why this is so important to understand this judge.
yes, so Judge Biggert is, I would say, very ideological, very, not left in terms of not really believing in incarceration. He's in the restorative justice movement to the point where it doesn't fit with the crime or even preventing the trial of someone who has over 100 felonies is turning criminal justice on its head. And he was pretty much asked by Governor Newsom, I believe, to build and lead what we call this mental health court. It's called the CARE Court. And he's quite senior in the CARE Court system because he built it, and he's completely ideological in the sense where if you are in a courtroom, you have the public defender, you have the DA, and you're supposed to have a neutral judge, but now you have a third person that's on the defense, the side of the defense. So it's
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I'm done. Go ahead. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
I was going to say, yeah, it's like automatically, it's almost like you're losing before you go in if you're the prosecution or the families, right, of the victims. It's like another advocate for the criminal. So this is a picture of the judge,
Yes.
and this is from your account. Now everybody needs your
Yes.
account's great, by the way. You pull no punches. So Liz Lay at is that Incita?
Incita? Yeah.
Incita. Okay, right on. So go to and then obviously I'll be linking it on my Twitter account. So you got to check her, follow her because she's just all over this. So the judge. So explain this situation. I thought it was really interesting.
Yes. So last night we had a public safety forum that was sponsored by Stop Crime SF. So they had the chief of police, the DA, juvenile probation chief, all these people talking about public safety. And here, this Judge Biegert shows up. I mean, he lives in Piedmont, so he doesn't even really live in San Francisco, even though he doesn't believe in, public safety because he lives in a very posh area of
Right.
he doesn't have to deal with the crime that he puts in our streets, but he comes and kind of trolls this public safety forum, sits in the front and like, makes panelists feel intimidated. And he's just there, even though he's completely anti-public safety and pro-crime. So it was a situation. So I had to approach him and I said, why are you suggesting diversion for Hanako Abe's case after 5 years? And he basically kind of lied to me. He said, I didn't put that on my calendar. Another judge did, as if, his calendar could just be utilized. He's a low level judge. That's not possible to even think of.
It's preposterous.
Yes, it's preposterous. And he uses a lot of other tactics. So San Francisco Superior Courts, we used to have, less judges that had public defender backgrounds, but now that has risen to closer to, 38%. So we have a lot of public defenders who are judges, and they use a lot of, I would say, operational tactics that really turn criminal justice on its head. One of the things that they use a lot is if they know that their perpetrator has, so much evidence, there's video and everything, clearly this guy killed somebody, they know that this person is going to be, guilty. What they do is they'll delay the trial and they'll keep them in detention so they get what you call 2-for-1 credit. So if you get 1 day in detention, you get 2 credits of days for post-sentencing. Oh, that's already 2 days time served. So that's a great way to reduce sentencing when you actually go to trial. But because they're doing this, we're seeing trials 5 years, 7 years later. That's like Grandpa Vice's case in San Francisco, where you saw him. He was an elderly gentleman that was just completely knocked over by a young 20-year-old and killed because he fell so hard. The evidence is there, but that case still has not gone to trial. It's been years.
Wow. Wow. It's crazy to really look at the details of this particular judge. I really, first of all, I'm so glad I found you online, because you're like you're just saying everything that I would say. Like, we have the same brain. Um, I am very, very upset over judges, just in the power that they have, and it's always been a concern for me. At every level, I feel like judges completely outclass any victim's family or any citizen that's trying to, let's even say, defend themselves. Right? It goes both ways. But even if you have a lawyer, lawyers and judges they're so good together. They see each other all the time. They're going to the courthouse from the break rooms. It's really hard to find that neutrality, right, that you're expecting. Why do you think this judge is so not neutral? Like, that's the sense, and it's the evidence. Why do you think that's going on with this judge?
I think that one aspect is the laws have changed to give judges a lot more discretion than we used to. So California law changed with Prop 47, Prop 57, AB 109. There are all these types of things that said, well, that might be reassigned as a misdemeanor. And if it's reassigned as a misdemeanor, then technically it can go back in front of a judge and the judge can decide the sentencing again. So that reclassified a bunch of felonies into misdemeanors. And then all of a sudden you had, oh, well, that 30-year sentence just became 2. So it's giving power to the judges that they didn't have before.
So too much power.
Yes.
Which is my problem. They have absolute power. And you've been in a number of courtrooms, right? Or at least in the San Francisco court, right? Some people never go to courtrooms. They're never there, right? Unfortunately, I went through a divorce and I've gone through some things and fought a traffic ticket, I've done that. I've also, as a blogger and as in the past, I've seen a lot of court cases. And people don't realize when you walk in that building, you have no civil rights. You have no power as a person. They have absolute power over you. A judge, and especially if you walk into a judge's courtroom, they can do anything they want to you if you get out of line. So to think that judges, are held back by some fantasy like boundary of ethics, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I don't want to get in trouble, but I have seen more judges do things that I have felt like that's just way out of line with power versus judges that withhold their power. In fact, I think when we see judges that are kind, withhold their power, and they're nice, that shocks us.
Yes.
and I can appreciate somebody that's very, I guess, radical or left leaning, however you want to call it, that thinks that they're being compassionate by letting these nightmares back on the street. That's not compassion. That's actually cruelty. To me, that's the cruelest thing you can do to the community, is to put someone who has demonstrated they're a danger, demonstrated that they're just trying to break the record of felonies, demonstrated that this will not end well. And in fact, didn't Gaston say that? This is not going to end well with this guy. Am I right or wrong with Troy?
Exactly. And another thing is, these judges, especially San Francisco judges, they are deliberately kind of hiding what they are doing. So when they choose probation, or they say, oh, well, that 5-year sentence is going to be stayed, like we're going to just give you probation. You don't actually have to go to jail. They don't actually make that information of the sentencing that clear. So every time we've come in with media and they see that it's a high profile case, they'll kind of quickly say, oh, we're going to let's reschedule this case. So, everybody comes in with their cameras, or you have to get permission to get cameras in the first place, and then it's conveniently rescheduled, and it's done time and time again like that. So it makes it very hard for us to track what did he do in this particular case, right? Like, you see the media completely reports on when the incident happens and there's an arrest, but nobody tracks the sentencing. And in the $1 million Union Square smash and grab with 50 people, nobody tracked the sentencing of that. And when I looked at the actual news reports, they even reported the sentencing wrong. Not a single person that went to trial had any jail time served post trial, for over $1 million of 30 stores being looted and smashed.
And do they think now? Okay, so we're talking obviously about the media and being misled by the court system, but also the media will mislead because. So do you think they're just not getting the info, or they're reporting it wrong because it's being given to them wrong, or they're just kind of so they have to be given kind of a mulligan because it's hard to keep track of what's going on with the court system in San Francisco?
It's very hard to even know when that trial takes place, who that judge is, what's the time. I mean, the way that they make you, none of the digital transcripts are available online. It's not like the federal court system where you can go through a web portal. So they deliberately make so that you have to request it, in paper form, and you have to know the exact amount of the price, who the judge is, who the court, all these little pieces of information that is very hard to procure. I've been to the courthouse. I know that. And then the other thing that's very interesting is, by California law, every single county in California is supposed to report what are the case filings and how were they resolved. And every single county reports this to the California Judicial Council, except for 2 or 3. And San Francisco is one of them, and so is LA. And that might be a coincidence, but clearly they don't want to tell you how they resolve criminal cases because they don't want you to know that most of them have been in diversion, or they didn't hold them for trial. So most of them have skipped town, and there's outstanding bench warrants that are 3 years pending. And even the DA has said that. We have so many drug dealers that skip their trials, so they're gone.
So is it because these you're saying San Francisco and LA will obviously focus on San Francisco, but that's look, LA is, we're all looking at what goes on, like it's almost like a carbon copy, just like better weather, right? It's a different kind of weather. Do you think it's because of local rules? They feel like, well, we just don't have to do it, and no one's making them do it, and it's not worth it for the state of California to pursue? Like, who would pursue that? The federal government, the state, to make them comply with what they're not complying with?
by law, it says that, county and state leadership is supposed to enforce those reporting of those numbers. And San Francisco is kind of unique because San Francisco is a city and a county. So unlike Alabama,
Right.
where your courts are kind of in every different city, you may have some conservative and some liberal, right? Because it's more heterogeneous. San Francisco, or 800,000 people, you only have all the judges in concentrated. So we tend to have a lot more liberal judges than if you were in Alameda County. You can get a mix of,
Yeah.
Stockton up to, Livermore versus Oakland.
Yeah. Now, if people don't know, that's
Yeah.
quite the San Joaquin County, right? That's quite the divide. I've lived out in the area for a long time. I used to live in Stockton when I was in my teens. So I got some street cred. I can say I got some street cred. So, as you were talking, it made me think about, like reform. That you personally, you're very knowledgeable, and I'm sure there are others that know the problem, and that they're just not, not just, procedurally, they're not obeying the law, right? And then when and it just trickles down, and then when you get, when you finally, they're not reporting it, then when they actually get into the courtroom, they're just doing whatever they want, not following their own local rules that they create. What can be done? I mean, other than the protests, which we're just going to talk about, which is awesome, things like that are super important. But what can be done to bring reform, like a class action suit, getting local legislators involved? What could be the call to action for people watching this, going, yeah, I agree. What can I do?
Well, one is definitely track your judges and their sentencing, right? Make sure that there's a track record. We're going to try to do that with The Voice, where we're having a judge's report card in real time
Ooh, that's fun.
to create something where victims can actually enter that information for us. If you have a transcript of the court, give it to us. If you have a court date and you want us to show up, give it to us, because it's so hard for us to have that. And that is exactly how we got HANAKO ABE'S case. Is her mom, instead of the DA really reaching out, I think, directly to Hanako's mom, she kind of, I think, got an email of some sort, and it was very confusing for her because, her English is not that good, and she didn't have a lot of trust with the system under Chesa Boudin. And she thought, what is this diversion? And so she had to reach out to Susan, who's a reporter, to actually have that trust and comfort with the criminal justice system, which is very sad. And secondly, I think if these judges holding them accountable, and the other thing is, state leadership is supposed to enforce it. So if you have state leadership that is very anti-carceral and pushing restorative justice and making all these laws so that you're taking away the power from the prosecutor and giving it all to the judges, that's not good, right? Because right now, how we deal with fentanyl dealers is we're actually using federal courts. Because if are dealing across many cities, we can actually use federal courts. And that's exactly what the DA is using, is federal courts. And we found that we can actually go through the fast track, sentence them, and then deport people.
Wow, that. Okay, that works. That works. And you're speaking of fentanyl being trafficked. I speak to a lot of leaders in Oakland, politicians and people running, and that's what they tell me is like Oakland, San Francisco, like the fentanyl goes back and forth. Oakland's kind of a base for it. The cartels or whoever is bringing it over, it gets packaged and good to go, and then boom, moved to San Francisco. And then apparently it's a discount. You were saying that the prices are so inexpensive. Not that, I mean, this is just kind of interesting. Not that, I'm trying to provide, places where people can get good drugs at a good discount. That's not our point here. But why do you think it's so inexpensive? Is it just the volume going into San Francisco? There's so much of it? Or is it just, why do you think it's so cheap?
Because it's so addictive, they're lacing it with everything. At
That's true.
salt of fentanyl, it can overdose an adult. So they put it in all these other drugs that we normally consider to be relatively safer. But sadly, that is how kids die because they're ordering it in the mail, even on Snapchat, and they think they're taking, Percocet or
Yeah. Yeah. It's being disguised, right? In different,
fentanyl intentionally to get you addicted, and they
addicted. And sometimes if it's too much, which a little bit can, especially if you're a teenager, could kill
right,
you.
'cause these
Yeah. In
no idea
Sacramento County. Yeah. Go ahead.
abortion, right?
Yeah, I was going to say in Sacramento County, they're dealing with that, right? All sorts of neighborhoods. It's affecting everyone. So, okay, so fentanyl drugs. There's so many. We have to definitely talk again. You have so much knowledge, and this is a really great conversation. And I want to let everyone know that's watching. Thank you guys watching on Rumble and watching on X. Please follow Liz. I'll put her handle up here. Follow her on X, and you can also jump to my account and you can follow her from there. Her stuff's incredible. Also, The Voice of San Francisco. It's a really incredible read. We're talking about this incredible situation and concerning a career criminal, Troy McAlister, who killed this young lady, and that's on the screen here. And there's a diversion hearing that's going to happen on Friday. Am I saying this right?
Yes.
Yeah. And there is a protest before that hearing. And here's the information here. And the reason why there's a protest being set up, which is so great, is because I don't think it's been 5 years, and I don't think anyone believes that the system is listening to them and the judge is listening to them. And the family, they're in Japan, if you're just joining us. And let's talk about the actual court case, like how we got here. So Troy McAlister, who we had on the screen earlier, career criminal, kills two ladies coming across a crosswalk. Here's one of the victims here, and we wanted to really bring awareness to this because it's been 5 years. It's easy for people to forget. So after the killings, was he on drugs at the time? Was it a DUI? He was in a car, right?
Yeah, there was definitely drugs in his
Yeah.
possession. Vehicle.
So that connects. Was it? Do you know what he was using at the time? Was it fentanyl?
They said that they found meth.
Meth, right? Meth. Okay. I guess fentanyl would be taking you out. You probably wouldn't be able to drive that well. Not that I know these things, but
That's cold. Yeah, you're not going to be driving.
yeah, you're gonna be out of it, right? I don't. So I guess it's good that I don't know, right? Okay, right. See, yeah. So so we got to this point. He's been in the system for 5 years. Explain now why all of a sudden they reached out to the family and said we're having a hearing on diversion. Like, how did that happen?
It's the public defender. He's up for election next year, and he basically thinks that because he can find these ideological judges, why don't he just put the request in, even though diversion is only meant for misdemeanors, not 91 felonies. And instead of really admitting that there's no rehabilitation possible for this person, and justice is allowing, her family to see this go to trial. And but it's just a subversion of justice, really, that they're doing everything they can to prevent the trial. And this is happening across many cases that it's very clear that, they have ample evidence. And so they just push it out as far as they can. And this is why the court system gets clogged up. And at the end of the day, we need to get public defenders that actually have respect for criminal justice too. I mean, I would look at this public defender, Raju, like if he was a cop, his justification would be, I can break the law to enforce the law, which is what he's doing by dismantling criminal justice, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah. So the diversion hearing is put on the calendar, an email is sent to the family directly to the mother, right? An email. We
yes,
talked about that earlier.
yes. And she's confused.
Right.
And she's been waiting, and it's something that is stressing her out, and she doesn't know because the last time she was called on a Zoom, it was Chesa Boudin, who didn't have a translator for her, and they were basically telling her that her daughter died, by a killer that was out, who shouldn't have been on probation. So there's a lot of confusion. She had to be told later through a Japanese friend of Hanako's that what really happened.
That
Very
that
hard.
is so okay. So you're saying that I want to make sure we're clear on this. So you're saying that the last time that they talked to her, it was to tell her her daughter had been killed?
Yeah, the DA over there, yes. I mean, they've had, and I think that's the last time they had a major Zoom. And and they haven't really reached out to her. So that was the thing. It's not like they contacted her or called her. They just sent her an email recently to say, oh, well, she's supposed to be waiting for this trial. It was scheduled for October 3rd. And they finally got that trial date. And all of a sudden, she gets this new email that says there's no longer a trial. It's been moved to mental health court. So she's completely surprised, you know.
It's so outrageous. So he's been incarcerated since this, right? For 5 years?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
kind of in detention.
Detention. No, yeah, he's on hold.
Yes,
And so instead of we're going to trial, we're gonna, we have the evidence clearly, we could have a speed, he hasn't even had a speedy trial, which constitutionally he should have had a quicker trial. 5 years, that's crazy.
yes.
It's pretty much cut and dry. But now they're saying instead of a trial, we may just let him go to a diversion because of mental illness and addiction.
Absolutely. It's completely
It's
outrageous, and it's, an assault on criminal justice.
it is, and the people of San Francisco, and ultimately the people of California. And so this protest is extremely important. And if you have the ability to go out, in San Francisco, you should go out and be a part of this, because it's pretty clear that the people's voice, and I like how you guys call it the voice, the people's voice needs to really be heard. And it's a real important time right now. And I know a lot of us are watching things online, and we all have opinions, right? This is why I'm doing this. We all have opinions, but you can do something. And this has been organized, and there's even a way to get signs, right? Liz,
Yeah.
you guys have that on your account where people can get signs to bring to the protest?
Yes, I definitely encourage you to bring signs. And if you don't have time, there's a job form that you can submit, and someone will bring a sign. A volunteer will make sure you have a sign, because that's the best way that we visually express ourselves. I mean, if you think about the history of major movements, when you look at photos of history, it's really those signs that have that big takeaway. So that's why it's really important to get that message across. And also, these judges, I mean, this is very important, not just for San Francisco, but I think across California and probably other states too, but especially in California, where if judges do these things, and it's a complete uh, assault to public safety, we have to speak up. And if this diversion goes through, there could be a huge recall. And so we're going to need all the resources that we can. The recalls for judges are very difficult and very expensive.
Extremely difficult most of the time, because people just don't know what it's about and who these people are, right?
Exactly. And you have
And so yeah, and unless they're plugged in like you are and educated, they really don't know what the issue is. And then if they get a ballot saying there's a recall, a lot of people vote no on a recall, because people will go no versus yes when they don't understand the situation. This is so powerful. Thank you for joining us. And guys, if you're watching, I have on the phone, video with me, Liz. There's Liz. Liz Lay lives in San Francisco, 20 years in San Francisco as a citizen, political science, education, economics. Okay, right? So good at numbers and statistics, has an incredible account. Follow her on X. And I'm reading your stuff. I'm like, did I write this last night? Like, we're like, I love your writing style, but it's me. So let's talk about the diversion. And we're coming up on an hour. So I just want to let you know, This has been, it's gone so fast. This has been such a great conversation. And we do have people watching. Thank you guys for watching on Rumble and YouTube. And share this, like this, and share this. And we'll put the information up on the screen about the protest as well. And if you can't go to the protest, you can send an email. You can follow the coverage. You can put a comment. You can share Liz's posts, share my posts. Susan, Susan Reynolds, right? Susan Reynolds. She also writes with The Voice, and was the one that provided the translation for the mother. You know, I gotta stop and say, that just really touches me to think about how Susan helped connect so that her mother would understand what was going on. Like
Yeah.
you guys, not only are you writing, but you're actually actively, you have your own personal call to action. You're really trying to help this family. This is a real family situation in Japan. That this is not just something you're reading, guys. This is a family affected generations. I mean, she had such, as I'm learning about her, she had such an incredible future. Just
That's right.
so young.
Yes.
And
she could be anybody's daughter, you know, like coming from a small town in the US, you know, coming to a big city, not realizing like all the chaos that's happening and the crime, because you don't really read about it in a lot of the mainstream news. So you come in quite maybe naive, and you're unsuspecting of all these serial criminals that they're putting out in the street. You've seen the stuff on Irina, the Ukrainian young lady that was killed on the public transportation. She's, you know, she has no idea that this is happening all over.
yeah, oh man, I'm getting touched. The way you you know, yeah, they're just naive. They're innocent. They're coming to the city. You know, I remember when I was you know, I'm young, but I remember that time. And you know what I know now, I'm so like head on a swivel. You know, I trust no one. You know, and I can't even imagine not having that knowledge and going to a city like that and just, oh, there's all these opportunities, and you're crossing the street to do what you people just do, killed in a moment of normality. And that's what happens. But so I digress, because it touches me, and I'm really glad to be a part of this. So thank you. I'm glad that we're doing this. So what happens if Troy gets diversion on Friday?
Well, if he gets diversion, I think San Francisco will be enraged. And I think the community will galvanize like the way it did and start a recall. It's going, you know, recalling Boudin was not easy, and it took a lot of resources and a lot of people that had never been political to come together. And that's the kind of momentum that this is creating right now. And I think it will send a message. I think people have had it. I mean, even before Judge Biegert was just reelected last year, and in fact, there was a survey that said 3/4 of San Franciscans knew that judges were putting criminals and or impacting public safety. Yet they went and reelected two of the worst judges. And the reason for that, I wrote in one of my articles, is it's all about, you know, what information do they go to for news? And the Chronicle was endorsing the two worst judges, and that had most of the eyeballs. Or TV news, but only a quarter or a third of some of the actual TV news was covering sentencing of the judges. Only, you know, so there was quite a big gap in information and knowledge.
Yeah, and there's also this sense that you can trust judges, right? They're all good, right? Oh, they're on your side. And people tend to believe that until they're facing one of these radicals. But, you know, now people get falsely accused. That's a thing too, right? Judges throw things out. You know, that's the whole, that process is wild. But you're very, very right. It's people are just, and they're not educated on the situation. And plus, life is so busy. There's so many things coming at you. And unless you're really plugged in to alternative media like this, you're not going to know. We have people watching, and I really appreciate that. And it's exciting to me to see that. And I want all of you guys to do us a favor and like this post or share it. Share this to someone in San Francisco, someone in California. I have a lot of California influencers that watch this and local politicians as well. And so do us that favor, guys. So just to clarify, diversion is like Troy gets like put into like a program and then like gets out. Is that how that works?
Pretty much. And there's not a lot of tracking of those mental health programs, whether they're effective, how are you actually measuring that people are rehabilitated. So I think they're, probably good on, in theory, but I think that they don't really solve the issues that this person has.
Well, you can't go to diversion if you're like in triple digits on felonies.
Exactly.
like that's like record breaking. Like to me, it blows my mind. This hasn't been a nationwide story that he has that many felonies. Like, and then it ends at murder. So it's pretty clear that even if someone is very like you call it restorative justice, if they're very into that camp, this is not for that. This is somebody that needs to be locked away. This is a nightmare, just like you were mentioning Irina in is it North Carolina?
Yes.
Who was murdered by that maniac who killed. She was just, yeah, not to get into it, but just the pictures of her just innocently looking at her phone, which is what everybody does, coming home from her job, working hard, and she's taken out by a nightmare on the street. So that has to stop. And the way to stop that is for the people to have their voice heard and to take some action. So Liz, one last question to ask you. No, first, did we miss anything? Is there anything important that we missed?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. You had a situation in your life with crime affected your family, and you experienced the system not working. Can you share a little bit of that? You don't have to get into too much detail. We're wrapping up, but I want people to, you're very passionate and you're very educated on this, and you're an expert, in my opinion. And you've just studied this and spent a lot of time on it. So people have seen that, but let's talk about that personal connection. What did you go through with your family with that crime situation?
Yeah, so my son takes the public bus, to go to public school every morning, and he was trapped in a bus with a bunch of dozens of other students, where there was a crazy guy in the back, spewing a lot of Asian hate. And there's a lot of Asians in that bus, kids and some seniors, but during probably after school around 4 o'clock. And when a young girl tries to intervene, the guy gets enraged, and gets in her face. So a young woman comes in and tries to protect the girl and says she's only 16, and this guy is a serial. He's been seen before in the bar, taking, I think it was a knife out and threatening an employee at the station. So they've seen his photo before. But anyways, he takes out a stun gun and turns it on, and it makes this, loud electrical pulse. The
Whoa.
bus driver stops the bus, and, kids are screaming, and everybody, darts off and runs off because he wants to, stun or tase somebody pretty much.
Yeah.
So that happened last year in May, and it's been over a year. I finally learned, luckily, because we have a new police chief, that they finally arrested this guy, but it took quite a long time, and it was a difficult criminal justice process. When you had at that time, because it was an Asian hate incident, people didn't want to talk about hate. It was
Right.
not really correct to talk about racism. So it was very difficult. But we have
Is anybody want to talk about anything to solve these problems? Which it's
So, and I think you understand. I mean, we have similar issues in other cities. I grew up in Portland. I also see what's happened to beautiful Portland, Oregon. It's desolate.
you have seen it all. Well, thank God that he's okay, and those kids are okay. Sorry, my phone's blowing up. And I'm glad that. So, but it took a year, right, to catch this guy, and you didn't think that there was really no action, and they weren't communicating. So that incident is part of the reason why you're passionate, because it affected you. And obviously your son, that's a thing, right? I'm sure like, okay, next time he's getting on transportation, right? That's going to be a concern, right?
Yeah, he was only 14, and we
Oh
had
man.
news reporters come to our house, and he didn't know why, he should be reporting it. But I said, if you don't, then what happens, right? I mean, I know it's difficult to have a 14-year-old talk again and again to different news agencies, but it was very important. I also encouraged two other families to report it at the same time that were
That's
in.
right, because it
Yeah.
affected a lot of people. That's really amazing. You are so passionate about a call to action. I love that.
And we did get a ABC, Dion Lim, who's no longer with ABC 7, but she called a reporter here that came to our house and did the interview. It was a very long interview. And then because they didn't like the topic, because it was, Disney owned ABC at that time, they decided to pretty much hide the story. So it never aired, even though they spent all this time with the reporter, cameraman, everything, to interview a 14-year-old. It's crazy.
And yeah, and so that's impactful on your son. I mean, that's an impactful thing. He has to share the story, and then be disappointed by them not using it because obviously of politics. That's something that he's not going to quite understand. I mean, he's
Right.
probably super brilliant because of you, and you're educating him. Okay, this is why this happened, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
You're a good role model. I love that. If we're not doing that with our kids, I do that with my kids. I have three, and with my two of my kids, my daughter, I always, she's probably kind of mean because because of this, but I say you got to always look at your environment.
That's
Do
true.
not trust people at face value. People will come in and they'll be sweet to you and nice, and that's how people approach you. Always ask questions. Always look out for others. Well, thank you, Liz. I'm going to wrap up because I know you have a lot going on. And so, do you play that guitar back there? And what's your song? That's my next question.
Oh, yeah, that's my husband's guitar, but I do the piano. So we do
Oh,
the.
right on. Okay. Oh, that's really cool. You guys are super creative. Well, hats off to him. That's really cool.
Thank you
So,
so much.
this is a really somber thing, and but it's nice to at least have a positive spirit in this, and I think that's important. We've had people watching, so thank you guys on Rumble, and thank you on X. Again, my guest has been Liz Lay, who wanted to educate us on a really important situation that happened, and so there's a protest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the flyer up one more time, and Liz, give everybody while we close. Tell everybody the information they need to know to be a part of the protest, and if they can't be there, how they can help, and also anything else they need to know about this. And they can go to the Voice of San Francisco online, a newspaper. They can read your account, Susan Reynolds as well. I'm retweeting you guys so all the time, so they can go to my account too. Get educated. This is in 2 days, right? Friday.
Yes, it's on Friday morning, 8:30 a.m. Show up on 575 Polk. Bring your sign, it's very important. And if you can go to the trial with us at 9 a.m., come on in. We'd love to have you. And, you could sit with us and cheer for Mrs. Abe, who's going to be on Zoom. And if you can't come to the protest, we will let you know immediately after how the hearing goes, because if there is a diversion, you can be sure that there will be a launch of a recall. So we're going to need as many, help and resources after that, because, to get 150,000 signatures to get a recall on the ballot is not a small feat. So,
No, it takes everybody. And in fact, I would go, but I have a family event. So I just want everyone to know that I would go. And I'm not just telling everybody to do something I wouldn't do. And that's really important. And Liz is doing it. She's going to be there and helping organize this. And I want people to know you're not related to the family. You're not anything but somebody who saw this story and it meant something to you.
right. And
And
I
and and that's important for people to know.
Yeah, and I think of it, could be my daughter, or it could even be me, and I think about that every day when I see random assaults happen in the streets. I mean, we just had a cyclist who was 6'4" who was stabbed to death trying to protect kids and a woman at the bus stop. because he stood in between kind of a crazy, someone who was off their meds and probably should not have been on the streets. Who was also had a crime for burglary. So it's could be anyone, anyone's child, and I think of that all the time. So it breaks my heart when I think of Mrs. Abe and how she lost her daughter just very suddenly like that.
Yeah, she's in Japan. So if you guys are just joining us, Mrs. Abe, the mother, she's in Japan.
Yeah.
And now we didn't, you mentioned this, but I forgot to emphasize this. So during the hearing, she's going to be on Zoom.
Yes, and hopefully they'll have a translator for her because they should.
Yeah, they should arrange that. So she's going to be on Zoom. She's going to need a translator. She's pretty much helpless. And what the time difference is it like 24 hours? Like what time will it be there, her time? Do you know?
Yeah, it would be late evening for her. It's probably 15 hours.
Yeah. So she's over there. She has to trust all these strangers in the system.
Yes, and we do hope to plan to also maybe raise some funds to bring her here if there is a trial. We don't know if there is going to be one, so that she could, be here in person.
That would be so cool if that can happen. Well, we're going to be positive, and not that you're not, but I'm gonna have a positive mental attitude and say there's gonna be a trial.
Thank you, and say a
Yeah.
prayer for us and Mrs. Abe because I think that would really help.
I will. Yeah, so I think we covered it. Liz, thank you. And I want to say I really appreciate you. So here's what my plan is. You're definitely welcome anytime to come on and share updates, maybe a half hour. It doesn't have to be an hour. Now that we've established this, anytime we could do, I can set up and go if there's like some urgency with something, because sometimes, they'll do an emergency hearing. Definitely welcome to come back Monday or Tuesday or whenever it's convenient to update us. That would be great. If there's anything I can retweet, the word I can get out for you, let me know. And if either way, I will cover this and we'll talk about this. And if there's a recall, I'll help put that info out, and anything I can do to help you in The Voice.
Thank you so much. I mean, you've already done so much, and thank you to your audience for listening. It means a lot to us. And
they're watching. We got double digits. I appreciate that. And also to Mrs. Abe, my heart goes out to her and the family. Guys, jump on The Village. I'm sorry, The Voice Village. The Voice, I think Village Voice. The Voice San Francisco. And jump on that and check out the archive. And you can read up. It's so detailed on the situation. Also, shout out to Susan for doing the great work with you guys. So unless there's anything else, Liz, thank you and have a great night. I'll let you go.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, thank you. And guys, follow me everywhere. I'm on all socials. Please subscribe, YouTube, Rumble for more updates. Have a great night. Take care. We're signing off. God bless you guys. Go with God.
God bless you.
Bye now.